Okay, with previous tech issues, we're checking, just mic test to make sure we don't have any crazy audio.
What's up, world? You guys are back with This and That with Mitch and Matt. This is the third time that we've done this.
Three.
Yeah, so we've never admitted to be tech savvy guys. At least I haven't. I just drink and talk shit, and I've claimed that, and that's what I do. We are very gracious to have our new friend Carrie Sloan with us, who's put up with our bullshit this entire hour and 16 minutes to get this straight.
Hats off to you.
As always, I'm Mitch. This is my boy Matt. This is a very special episode because it is our first one, as if nobody noticed, is live streamed. If you thought we've done it before, well, we evidently suck at it a lot. So, first of all, we want to thank Carrie for being on and putting up with our shit long enough to handle it till we got everything worked out. Basically, technology is a thing, man. It wasn't anybody's fault. We were getting some bleed back from some other devices. It could have been somebody watching. It could have been us. We don't know. Point being, we're here. We're live now, and we're very glad to have Carrie on board, and I'm very glad to have my boy Matt with me. So we're going to get into things. You guys have seen us post here lately. Carrie Sloan, creator of We the Female, very avid Pro 2A supporter, domestic violence survivor, women's advocate. So bless you. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for putting up with our manly bullshit, because we think we know what we're doing. And it takes a woman to come on and be like, look, you guys don't know shit. So tell everybody a little bit about what you do and kind of what you stand for, man. Because I made a big point the other day to say you're not just a pretty face, you're not just good looking, but that you stand for some shit. So tell people what you stand for.
I do, yeah. So I was thrown into Second Amendment rights advocacy about a year and a half ago when I went viral, speaking out against a law here in Washington State. The short of it is that when you sign up 44, there was a lot of pieces to this law, but the one that set me off was when you sign your 4473 to purchase a firearm in Washington State now, it's an automatic waiver of your HIPAA rights, and they get to check your medical records, including your mental health background, and so you can be denied the purchase of a firearm because you have depression or whatever they determine, and there's they've not even set any criteria up for what that is. So I spoke out about that as a domestic violence survivor because lots of domestic violence survivors have PTSD or depression on their medical records. So they went viral, and here I am, a little while later. So I have an organization called We the Female. It is a nonprofit organization that works to break the culture of victim mentality by arming the women with education, confidence, and self-defense. Because one of the things that I've discovered in the gun world is the first go-to, particularly for men, is she needs to get a gun, get her armed. They all need to be armed. That's great. Yes, I agree. Even if it's not with a gun, right? Because I want people to be comfortable with whatever self-defense tool they're comfortable with. For me, it's a gun. Yeah. But that may not be for everybody, especially domestic violence victims right away. Right. So what I have to do is I'm kind of fighting two fronts, right? I have to get women, whether they're victims or not, or men, because there are men that are domestic violence victims too. and get them to understand that their lives are worth defending to begin with, right? Because they've been so everybody thinks domestic violence and they think getting beaten, that's the automatic go-to, but they don't realize that it's, months or years before the physical action happens, and most of the damage happens when they're emotionally. So they don't believe that they're even worthy of having their lives saved. So I have to get their self-esteem up enough, which is why I have self-confidence in those keywords, to realize that their lives are worth saving. Then I can come in and introduce them to the options. So I go out across the country and I teach defensive mindset and super basic situational awareness. I say basic situational awareness because most people that teach it are teaching people that are already in this world. Even a lot of gun training, basic, pistol or going into more advanced training. It's not for the new people, and they tend to market to each other. Where I work actively out in communities with people that have never been involved with firearms or self-defense in any capacity, namely like domestic violence shelters or these types of things. So they're two completely different worlds, and they're very difficult worlds to merge. Very difficult.
So first of all, man, thank you for what you do, because
thanks.
For one, congratulations. I don't know if congratulations is the right word, but I think to be a domestic violence survivor, I think coming from especially like a place like Kentucky, you always think about, when you say domestic violence, you think about getting beat, slapped, punched, whatever.
Right.
But the females, and sadly it's usually mostly females that I know, they're domestic violence survivors. It's been some type of mental disturbance or mental abuse that they put up with, like you said, for years and years and years, until they're beat down to the point they don't think they can do anything else. They don't think they can survive without that other person. And then it turns physical. So for you to step up and say, hey, there's a way to build your confidence back up, because unfortunately, most of the women that I know like that start off, and now granted, a lot of them now have built themselves up, but they start out at this level that they just feel, and I don't have a better word for it, but they feel worthless because they've been told for 7 years they are fucking worthless. They are, for whatever reason.
It's their fault.
Right. It's your fault that you're being treated this way. You make me do this to you, which is bullshit, because, I mean, obviously it's bullshit. I mean, I don't need to explain that. But so it's awesome to see somebody who has survived that, who has not shied away from facing it now again. And not just facing it by yourself, but to now shoulder that fucking load and shoulder those other people and try to help them get to this plateau of feeling good about themselves again and being able to protect or defend themselves or whatever it be. And I think what me and Matt talked about, I know a lot, was what's so outstanding we think about you is that as much, I know when we were trying to get our tech issues worked out prior to this shit, you were showing us some guns. So as much as I know you said you're not a gun bunny, you're a rights activist, and you stand for more than that.
Yeah.
So as much as you love your guns,
like I'm not a gun girl. I'm not a gun. I'm not a competitor.
Right.
I can't. I can pull some of these off the top line mostly because I own them, but I couldn't break down triggers, and all that kind of stuff. That's not the thing. You put me in a room with the Constitution and policy that's being written, and how the multiple layers of it affect each other and individuals differently. That's my lane. And
that's the shit that helps people. Like,
yeah,
Matt can show me how to break a fucking gun down and how to swap out a trigger and how to. Matt's built several ARs with me, for me, helps me, shows me. But in the end, he's helping me. But the shit that is really helping people, get their rights, get their freedoms, get what they deserve, and quit. Because what you said about those laws and the fact that they buy a firearm, it's basically you're dismissing your HIPAA rights.
Yeah,
that is insane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if Matt had heard that. I'd never experienced or heard that. And I think that's that is the craziest thing that they can say, because you buy a handgun. Well, no, now we can know all your shit. Like, you bought a pistol. Now we know everything about you. So
yeah. And the thing with that too, that's a concern is that and what people don't realize with it is so when that was written, there's no criteria for what they'll approve or deny. There's no standardization of how far back they can look or how far forward they look. So it's all completely arbitrary at this point.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's determined by what they're calling the health authority. But nobody knows what the health authority is. So we don't know who these people are. We don't know what's going on. So it's a little frustrating, to say the least, because it's so vague. So you take this component, you throw red flag laws on top, and now you've got a real dangerous situation, particularly for domestic violence victims. And I run a really unusual line as a domestic violence victim with red flag laws. I do not believe in them at all. Even though domestic violence victims and survivors are one of the biggest pawns that are used to sell them. And but there's many ways, and a lot of them are obvious for y'all. And I know that these would be obvious for y'all. That being said, there's some negative impacts to victims and survivors that people don't think about. And I've had people running mental health clinics and U.S. senators tell me that they did not realize some of the problems. One of the biggest being is that victims that are still in their situation, if they already have a firearm in their home, and that's their method of self-defense, they won't go seek the mental health care that they need for fear that they're going to have that on their record.
Yeah,
and I like to say, like, my joke is, what I like to say is, before a victim finally diagnoses herself that she's actually in a relationship with an asshole, she's usually been diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety, any of these things that would get her, in Washington State, denied the purchase to begin with, or could get her easily red flagged. And now this abuser has these things that he can hold over her head.
Right.
This is where I'm the unusual character with this. I also am a hard-line anti-party constitutionalist.
Yes.
And I could sit and when I say this, it's not easy for me to say this, but I have to hold my personal philosophies and convictions about our rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution to heart when I say this. I could sit and watch a dude, literally witness the abuse and still defend his right to due process. And that's a very difficult thing to do. Knowing that he's a piece of shit,
right.
and that he doesn't deserve that. But at the same time, it's, he has inalienable rights guaranteed by our Constitution. Now, that being said, you call me on that witness stand and you're going down.
Right. No shit.
Yeah, I got you. Sir.
But that should say something about you that you'll do that, because that should show that you aren't just fighting for some shit that, like, you want for yourself, that you feel like everybody deserves these same rights. So I think kudos for you for doing that, because I can't imagine if you had to deal with somebody who had done this shit to you, but you still want to stand up and say, well, look, they deserve this, this, and this, because that's their constitutional right. Because I'm a vindictive son of a bitch, and I would say, you know what, fuck off, but that's me. So
yeah, and so that was a hard come to Jesus for me when I got into this world, a very hard one. But I realized that if I was actually going to walk the talk, of a constitutional rights advocate, that was important. So it is a difficult thing. So, like I said, that being said, if I'm witnessing that, make no mistake about it, I'll let them have the due process. I don't think your firearm should be taken away, but I am going to make sure that you're held to task. So, and what this comes down to at this point really is, we're in a situation where the dangers really lie in our broken justice system, our broken judicial system, where they continue to allow these abusers to get out and reoffend. My ex-husband was my abuser. He beat me up so badly that when the police, he had just left and the police showed up, the reason that they charged him initially with a felony was because I was bloody. Now, that there was blood present on my face from a bloody nose. He fractured a little hairline fracture here, cracked my teeth. I've got crowns in my teeth. There are a bunch of other things that he'd done. I couldn't eat for a few days because my mouth was all cut up. But here's the thing that really killed me. So he was charged with a DUI because they caught him on the road, and he was charged with a Class C felony. So this was on Thanksgiving night. So of course he had to stay in jail for 4 days because they don't have, like, I know you're supposed to be arraigned within so long. Well, the caveat is unless it's a holiday. So the following Monday, I show up to court because I'm ready to hold him to task on this. And of course, by now I'm black and blue, right? I mean, because it's taken this many days for all of this to show up. I sit down with the female prosecutor that's put in charge of his case, and she's dropped the DUI charge, and she's dropped the assault charge to a Class A misdemeanor.
Are you kidding
and
me?
I told her, no, I'm not kidding. Your video is interrupted on Facebook, just so you know, because I've got it up with the volume off. So I have interrupted video for people, but whatever that means. So I'm gonna reboot it and see if it comes back up. So I told her, I said, I am willing to testify against him. And she said, I'll never forget this. She said, are you sure? Victims don't usually testify against their abusers because they're scared, which makes sense.
Right.
So in Washington State and in a lot of states, the prosecution of domestic violence, like people say, well, why didn't you press charges or whatever? We can't. In Washington State, the pressing charges is taken out of the hands of the victim and is given to the state handles it. The state does the prosecution. So I told her, yeah, I'm willing to testify against him. I'm willing to task on this. I don't know that we're going to do that. I think we're going to do a diversion agreement.
So they decide if there's you can't press charges. They have to decide if those charges are able to be pressed against.
They decide what they're going to charge. Yeah. And then they decide, how they're going to proceed with that and whether or not I'm going to testify. So at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is it comes down to a clear indication that the prosecutors could give a crap about the victim, and it's about their win-loss record.
Yes.
She could have had a full-blown felony conviction because I was going to testify against it. Like it was very cut and dry. But because she didn't want to risk she was afraid that I wasn't going to follow through testifying and she could lose her mark in her win column. She blew me off on it. Yeah.
I use this word lightly, but she sounds like a cunt. So I don't use that word often, but
that's actually one of my favorite words. But I won't use it here today, just in case we've got people watching. But yes, that is actually one of my favorite words.
I mean, but, I tend to watch it myself, but I try not to say it too often. But for somebody like that, man, especially somebody who has, I'm sure that when she's seen you or talked to you, she's seen the results of what had happened, at least.
Yeah, it should have been self-evident that what had happened.
And to choose somebody's win-loss record of what could have happened or the win that she probably could have got unanimously with the way you were beat was, I don't know, man, it's just a bullshit thing. I don't know. Yeah. I've got my own opinions, and it's just a bunch of cuss words, and I'll keep them to myself.
Yeah. So, and I mean, but you're right. I mean, for me, this particular incident, which was not it was not the first time he hit me, it was the last.
Right.
The first time he did hit me, I said, "You ever hit me again, you're going to jail." And I held true to my word. But
right.
There was 3-year difference between the 2 times he hit me. Because that's what happens. Like it's not like the movies make it out to be where, I know Jimmy loves me. He just, gets mad at me sometimes and he just gets drunk and hits me. Yes, it can be like that, but there's a cycle that it goes through, right?
Yeah,
and then
they come back and they tell
you.
I have a real problem with men who hit women. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, a lot of people do. But interestingly enough, and this is something that I want people to listen to and take to heart. A lot of men do, and I'm not speaking of y'all, but
Right.
I've had men who tell me that they have a problem with women being hit by men, yet turn around and will say, "I just don't understand why she just doesn't leave after the first time she's hit." So for those of you watching, especially my men, that's what we call victim blaming. And I'm not trying to be shitty to you. I want you to understand that the alt-left extremists have hijacked that term and have made it a very negative connotation. However, it is a very real condition. Hello, daughter. My teenager. It's a very real issue. So, it's a very, that in its can be very detrimental to victims, especially if I'm trying to get them out of their abusive situation. When I spoke on the Capitol lawn in Washington, D.C. in November, one of my friends who was in the audience, she heard a man in the audience say that I was speaking. First time I'd ever done a speech and had very specific details about what happened to me. And she heard a man say that, and I told her, I said, so I'd been in this of women for 20 days, spa. And so just that, gauging the temperature and knowing how women are, and dynamics of relationships, and then getting into domestic violence victims and then self-defense. I have met a man that isn't abusive, or a woman that says it who isn't being abused, because they think the abuse is physical and they don't realize that there's a whole mental component to it. So I always ask people when I do any interviews, podcasts, whatever, that when you see comments, if I leave a post about a victim, and I'm talking about the laws and how she's affected, this is one of those things where we as women need you men to speak up, because we as women, if we speak up and we see these kind of comments, or, well, it's really sad she died, but if she had had a gun, she'd been able to defend herself. Well, yeah, you're right. But she didn't even realize, in her mind, it was her fault. She deserved what she was getting. And when victims see these kind of comments, it's going to keep them from coming out for me to be able to. So in other words, I like to say, I can't arm the women when you guys are being assholes. But when women talk about that, when women were to confront individuals, we're being sensitive, we're being overreactive, we're being victims, we're being too emotional, and where it becomes effective. And this is really where we need men's voices to speak out when they see that stuff and say, hey man, that's not cool. That isn't okay. That's how collectively we need to work to change the culture of victim mentality, particularly in the gun world or the self-defense world itself.
Now, I'll be the first to say, and I've admitted this, and then you brought it up, is I was one of those guys who said, why don't you just leave? It's that fucking easy. Just fucking leave. No, it's not.
No.
It's not.
I just came out of
Mitch, tell me why it's not easy.
Well, listen, I just came out of a relationship with a woman I was with for 3 or 4 years who was mentally abused for years before me.
Yep.
And I seen the damage it done to her. And I realized that when you're beaten down so much that you're told you can't survive without that person, that everything that's happening to you is your fault, that the reason you're being treated the way you're being is your fault, the way you're being beat is your fault, that you can't make it without said person. And it does something to this that really, really messes you up in the head. And for a while, I was an ignorant man who thought, well, all she's got to do is leave. All she's got to do is walk out the door.
Mitch, for a while, come on now. For a while.
Well, right. I've been an ignorant guy for almost 36 years. So
he checked his watch.
Right.
How many
years I've watched.
Yeah.
So, when you spend time with somebody who's been mentally abused or physically abused, either one, you really get an insight for what they go through. It's more than what you think. I've been abused I'm not abused is not the word. I've been hit by women. I've been hit by men and whatever. But when you're in a relationship with somebody and that person constantly belittles you and beats you down to a level where you think you really can't survive without them, what some significant others I've had in the past kind of dealt with. And it's when you're with somebody like that, you really see the ramifications and kind of what they went through, because it doesn't just go away when they leave that person. It follows. I don't know if it follows you, but I know it's followed people in my past. It's followed them because they're used to that same treatment. Like, they may not know I'm not going to hit them, or I may not talk trash to them, or I may not do this, but they still have those tendencies that are like, you know, they want to take the blame for everything, or they want to say they're sorry for everything because that's what they're used to doing. It's the bullshit thing that a man does.
Right.
Yeah. And it's well, and women do it to men too. Women, and I've had some pretty heated conversations with some gentlemen over this that are on my side, but that they still don't click it. The women, let me be clear, women can be physically abusive, but more often than not, that's more going to be an emotional abuse coming from women. But so with PTSD, and I learned this as I went through it, right? Because I did what I was supposed to do and got the diagnosis and PTSD and so that I could get the treatment I needed. But your brain will actually, the neurons in your brain will rewire themselves to protect itself. Right. Or to automatically respond with a defense mechanism. So, for example, like, you know, like with PTSD, you know, people that have night terrors and nightmares and stuff. You've heard of nightmare paralysis. Well, I would wake up completely from a dream and completely conscious awake, and I couldn't scream because my vocal cords were paralyzed or my legs were paralyzed and I couldn't move. So my brain started to rewire itself to not sleep. So now I really don't sleep. Which the one thing I found on occasion when I get really, really, really sleep deprived, what does help, thank God, in Washington State is we have it's a legal marijuana state. So I found that cannabis, right? Because that's a whole science, man. No, so drinking doesn't work. And I can't drink. I lost 100 pounds. I had lap band surgery and lost 125 pounds a few years back. So I can't drink.
Hey, I had gastric sleeve and lost 250. Yeah, that's why I drink these little tiny bottles of liquor like this.
And so I can't really drink a whole lot anymore. But even alcohol doesn't typically help. But it gets to where it's so bad that I can use that once or twice, and then I'll sleep, but then I go right back into my cycle. But I'm also a big proponent of legalizing marijuana. There should never be a question on the 4473 about marijuana use. Here's why. I would rather have somebody smoking weed and baked out of their head with a gun in their house than drunk.
Yeah. So I've told Matt this before.
I've never heard of anybody that's just stoned. That's like gonna, like blow everything. Right? No, that's not gonna happen. They're gonna do it tomorrow. By the time tomorrow hits, they're over.
I worked EMS for about 13 years, and I still work EMS occasionally, and I work in a college town most of the time. So I never hesitated when I got a call to go, and I never failed. The first 2 weeks of college, we would always have to go to the university because somebody got stoned and was freaking out. And I never hesitated to go because, they're just stoned, they're hungry, they're tired, they can't stop laughing, whatever it be. But also, I don't know how many times I went to somebody's house who was drinking and was wielding a gun, ready to shoot everybody, locked herself in a bedroom, was physically violent.
Yeah.
When I go to somebody's house who has smoked weed, marijuana, and they're just at a different level for what they're doing. And I've never met anybody high on marijuana who was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Right. Anybody that's drinking, aside from me, I just get drunk and love and want to hug everybody.
That's kind of weird.
Right. We hug each other sometimes.
Yeah. So that's
those people.
Well, and look,
different thing.
Listen, y'all, I got to tell you, because I'm with my Kentucky people. So Mitch and Matt found me because I spoke at their Kentucky gun rights rally in February, I think it was. And y'all thought I was actually from Kentucky. I'm not. I'm from Washington State, and I flew out for that. And actually, how that happened is I was just recovering from the SHOT Show crud, and my friend Eric Blanford, some of you guys know him, Iraq veteran, is who that is. And he and I started really, and my friends that were in Virginia. So a lot of my friends were the millennial guys that
Right.
kicked off a lot of those young people going to that rally. My husband went to that rally. I did not go with him as I'd committed originally because it got so big that I wasn't afraid of violence breaking out. That was the least of my worries. I was, however, worried that they would detain both of us a little bit longer, and I didn't want my teenager being home alone. And
That's understandable.
Different when you're.
So we divided.
Man.
Yeah.
So we divided. I went back to Virginia on another occasion and spoke again, which was wonderful, and I had a great time. But as I got home from SHOT Show, because I went ahead and went to SHOT Show, my husband went to the rally in Virginia, 45,000 people there. And he, when I was laying on the couch kind of recovering, Eric and I had been working to get as much rally information out, right? Because that set a fire, right? That Virginia did set a fire.
Yeah.
And so we were doing everything we could to get that information out. And I thought, boy, I wish I'd known about Kentucky earlier, because that sure would be cool to go speak. And he said, you saw Thomas Massey is speaking, right? And I said, no, I didn't. And I really like him a lot. And he's the only politician that I like. And I even say that with caution because I don't like politicians.
Yeah.
So, but all of this drama that he's gone through has only made me respect him more. So,
Right.
and I got to have dinner with him while I was there, and Dick Keller, who's a friend of mine. And I looked at Massey, I said, please don't get Hillaried. We need you. You're our Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And and so he he thought that was pretty funny. But so that's how I ended up in Kentucky. Is I thought, well, so this was on a Monday.
Yeah.
I think this was on a Monday that I saw that there was even a rally in Kentucky. And I was somehow ended up in the Kentucky women's group, I think it was, or something. Christy Hester, I don't know if she's still watching. She's one of the admins in there, she was following me. Somehow I was connected with her. So I messaged her and I said, hey, can I speak at your rally in Kentucky? If I can, I'll fly out Friday. She goes, well, I don't know. They usually have that pretty set. Let me see. It was less than 5 minutes later, I had a spot. And I was like, all right. So
Perfect.
4 days later, 96 hours later, I was on a plane and in Kentucky, and it was cold as a witch's tit. It was cold that day.
And rainy.
Where was
Yeah.
I wasn't here, right? I was in Disney.
Yeah, you was at
I was
Disney.
in Disney. I was in Florida.
So 72 hours before, I messaged Eric and I said, hey, I'm going to Kentucky. You want to go? And he's like, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Kentucky.
And that's how we ended up in Kentucky.
You always want to come to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And just so while you're taking that drink of water, I'm going to tell everybody that you're coming out, I hope, in a few weeks for what we call, I call it the 3 B's of Kentucky: bourbon, bullets, and barbecue. And we're going to try to show you a good time while you're out here, man, and treat you good.
Absolutely.
And
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there the last week of the month of May.
Perfect.
And so I know that Matt, right, your wife works with domestic violence victims or something like that. So I'm going to be speaking at a domestic violence shelter. And
as long as quarantine has ended there.
Right. And I think for y'all, it probably will. So, one of the other things, which we can do whether quarantine ends or not, because people can make that choice. But We the Female class in certain states qualifies as a concealed carry class. So we are going to be holding a concealed carry class while I'm there. I'm going to teach the classroom work, and then we've got an instructor to teach out on the range, and then we're going to hit the range. So when I was in Kentucky, I had a sip of, it's getting hot in this room. I had a sip of bourbon out of a friend's glass once, and that was it. So I never actually sat and had bourbon. So I told Dick that, and Dick says, well, you're in Kentucky, right? Which I figured that was the case. So we went to Bourbon on Main in Frankfort, which is where we sat with, I sat with Representative Massey and Eric and I and Dick Heller and had a great time with Dick. Anyway, you had to be there, but like teaching us how to taste bourbon and stuff. But afterward, Eric and I went to Buffalo Trace, and my husband came home from the store the other day.
And
look at that.
Yes, that's my favorite.
So I figured if I was going to be doing live streaming and podcasts with y'all, that I couldn't, let me see. I gotta
Bring it
get
over a
in
little bit. Bring it over my way a little bit.
Well, I'm doing it in the Facebook camera.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's what
Because
matters.
I'm looking at two different cameras, y'all. Sorry. So I had to, of course, and I'm going the wrong direction with it.
Buffalo Trace. Shit, that's good stuff.
I don't know.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
Buffalo
my
Trace.
girl.
There you go. So I figured no self-respect, because I am Southern, and no
Right?
self-respecting Southerner isn't going to represent a state that doesn't, it's their roots. So there it is, right there.
We
My
do
Buffalo Trace.
bourbon.
Which my favorite is actually Rare Eagle.
Oh, okay.
Or Eagle Rare, whatever it's called.
So you said you're Southern. Where are you originally from? Are you not
I
from
was born in Georgia.
Georgia?
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's Eric's state.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So I know
Yes,
I
was
got
born in
online the other
Marietta.
day with your boy Kevin Dixie. He's from St. Louis, right? And I know we had a little debate about barbecue.
Katie is from, Katie is born and raised in St. Louis.
So I'm gonna be honest. I was just talking shit. I know St. Louis got some good barbecue. I was honestly just 100% talking shit. We got bourbon, and I told him the other day. I followed his Instagram video, and I told him, I said, "I'll bring the barbecue or bourbon, and you bring the barbecue." I know you've talked really highly of him and what he does, and his civil rights and his activism and everything that he does. And so I listened to him the other day without you because I noticed when I watched him with you, I kind of focused on you because I knew you.
Right. Yeah.
But I watched him last night on his feed, and I really focused on what he had to say. And he is dude. He's got it. He knows what he's doing. He stands for some. He's like you. He stands for some shit. So I really like him. I've watched all his lives, and I've watched his
he's
speak,
pretty fly for a.
He's all right.
He's pretty fly for a black guy.
He's all right. I'm gonna take him some bourbon. We're gonna go to St. Louis and get.
He's all right. He's all right.
He's all right.
So KD is so I was actually connected with Katie on the internet. He was on a rant about people that claim to be advocates, saying that they wanted to be paid to come out and do work with him in advocacy and stuff, and he was a little pissed about it. And I went on this rant, and he said, "You all know people that are advocates that are doing real work out there that are really, bringing a different voice in." He says, tag
and
them.
not getting a penny for it.
Somebody tagged me, and that's so we ended up following each other. And that's how we, and I don't expect to, right? I mean, I'm, I can give you guys my background a little bit and how I ended up here, and the whole deal. But I don't believe me, if you're seriously in it for advocacy, you ain't getting paid shit.
Right. Well, that's what I like about you, because I've bragged about you, because when we talked about you originally, you were like, you said, "I'm going to fly myself out there. I'm going to do this." Like, you weren't looking for shit to come out to help two random dudes who started a podcast. And I told Matt several times, dude, that's like, she offered to fly herself out. She offered to fucking put herself up. And I said, no, we can't let that happen. So it shows a little bit about character when you don't want to come out for a free ride to Kentucky for some bourbon. You want to come out to speak for some shit that's true to what you feel. And so I felt like that's, what I said, that you were willing to book all that and come on your own. So you can kind of tell the people who are in it for what they mean and the people who are in it for like a free ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And other than that, we're still getting messages about how pretty you are. I got a message today saying, I literally got a message from a guy named Leroy. I won't call him out in public, but a guy named Leroy texted me today, and I know you know who the fuck you are. He said, "Man, you're real sexy in that shirt and that red hair," which was weird because I've got a red beard. And I was like, I don't know if you're coming. I took it to me because I liked it. I took it straight to, right. I said, thanks. I appreciate that. But dudes still think we're you because we posted your picture on our Facebook. So they think we're you. Yeah. And listen,
so,
if those of you that get people to pay attention, I'm okay with it because what you stand for is some real good shit. So if looks do it.
Well, thank you. And I've got to tell y'all, so when they posted that teaser of this live stream, which we wanted to do to kind of get the word out that I'm coming to Kentucky, I didn't know they did that. I just got tagged out of the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And I saw that and I howled. And so the volume was on, and then all of a sudden you're hearing, "We ain't talking to her because she's pretty." My husband's like, "What the hell's going on over there?"
I mean, that's me. That's what I do. I get
And
drunk
it
and
was
talk
great.
shit.
I know
so
it was fantastic. It was super funny.
what I
And-
liked about it was
and-
the heartbeat. My girlfriend heard it and she was like, "Is that your heartbeat? Like, what's
That
stopping
was
so
pretty
fucking
funny.
hard?" I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I thought, oh my gosh. And I thought, God, man, y'all went way back on my feet to find some of those pictures.
I didn't
Is
even
that
know
one
those
of me?
pictures existed.
That's our buddy.
Huh?
Blake.
The one with your skirt pulled up and your leg, I was like, shit, she might even like that. Like, we're gonna put it on there anyway.
Yeah.
Fuck it, we're gonna ride out.
So that one of the things that the reason that photo is the way it is, and for the ladies that are watching, if you are, give us a little thumbs up. I
Yes.
can't see all of the groups, but when we see concealed carry outfits of the day or whatever, these gals that really are trying to be fashionistas, but they're concealed carry and they're trying to make it big in like fashion, IG fashion, but using gun hashtags or whatever. I don't poo-poo that. I mean, by all means, it's cool. I like seeing that. There's my ladies. Hi, ladies. But you never see them rarely you'll see them in dresses.
Yeah.
With thigh holsters, which is usually the way I carry because I wear dresses a lot. But you never see them sitting down. And sitting down is a whole other thing.
Shit, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
See, exactly.
Right, no shit. Yeah.
Right. So the I work as a nail technician. I do pedicures, and then I do facials. So I sit all day.
I've heard.
And so I
Man is trying to buy
couldn't
some
sit. I felt I wanted to do a picture showing that you could get what it looked like concealed carrying in a dress.
Right.
Yeah.
Sit. So, and I've done a couple of those. It's a little bit more difficult, especially because people don't just some of the comments and stuff, and people don't focus on the task at hand. Because here's controversy, and I'm gonna this is gonna go into a little moment as a woman who's new to. I mean, I've been around guns, but new in the world of advocacy and helping people understand. We're gonna talk about chambering in a minute. So when I'm at work, I don't chamber my gun. And I don't chamber my gun. And if on my social media, there's a couple pictures you can see. There is no position. If usually I'm carrying on my thigh when I'm at work, and there's no position that I sit in that I'm not flagging somebody.
Right.
And I'm usually with a trigger guard or a soft holster, and usually they're freaked out enough that if they know I'm carrying. I don't make it a secret now. I used to make it a secret. That's all I need is just right. They kick me wrong or whatever, right? Because I'm doing a pedicure, like whatever. So I don't. I do otherwise now. I built into that, and that's what I wanted to say. I know that's another big shaming thing that happens a lot on social media. Is what's the point of carrying if you don't chamber? I get you.
Yeah,
I get it.
I've got that.
But if I'm getting a gun into the hand of a domestic violence victim or a woman that's never carried, who's scared, shut up.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep your mansplanations out of that shit and just support her. And if you do that, I promise she'll start doing it. She just has to get comfortable getting there. And as somebody that carries now, and there's sometimes I don't chamber, usually at work, or if I'm carrying a new gun that I'm not as comfortable with until I get comfortable with how it's going to sit and adjust. Because women are different that way. Like men, right? You strap that shit on, you go. Depending on my outfit, depends on what gun I carry.
Yeah.
So, but for the most part, I learned and I've become comfortable, and I had to build into that. So as someone who's new to being that person, I can still empathize with these new women coming in and everything that's still out there. And there's some companies that are doing some great stuff to produce, things about new shooters and so on, like Well-Armed Woman and Girl with a Gun, Shoot Like a Girl. I mean, there's great stuff out there, but there's still, and they don't intend for it to be, but there's still an unintentional echo chamber that we tend to get into, and that these groups still talk to each other a lot.
Yeah.
Particularly on social media. So when you've got women watching, and I have a lot of women that like, there's one in here now, I'm going to call you out, Elizabeth Smith. Elizabeth Smith became active with her being active she registered to vote and is getting more active politically. Well, I've got women and men that have started carrying because they watched what I'm doing. So you never know where somebody is in this. I mean, in their journey. So we need to make sure that especially right now, when guys, 2.5 million firearms sold in the month of March. It broke records. It was more than it was sold and more in 1 month than some sold in a year. Here's the kicker. There were 3.5 million background checks that were done.
Wow.
Right?
Shit.
3.5 million. So for those out there that think that anybody can just get a gun, there were approximately, so even say those numbers were skewed, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's really throw them the bone. Say there was only 500,000 of them, right? That they're overestimating by 1 million. Okay.
Right.
500,000 people failed a background check.
Right.
Wow.
So for this law 5717 that is at the federal level now, and their universal background checks, they already exist. Spoiler alert.
I like it.
They already exist. So that's that form that you fill out that everybody got pissed off about in California, and they were trying to bribe. I don't know if you saw that, but people in California went to buy guns, and they were pissed that they couldn't take the gun home same day. And they were actually trying to bribe the gun store owners. They had people actually saying things like, well, can we use the gun show loophole? And then like,
right. Yeah.
And then, my favorite was the, can we pay you? They were trying to bribe him. Can we pay you more to take it home today? And that guy, so finally one dude, he just lost it. And then he went off on a rant. He owns a gun store in Riverside, which was an area I grew up in California. And he just, he made a video and he just ran. He goes, no, you can't. And he says, but remember this, in November, when you're voting for these assholes that put this shit in place.
Yeah.
And I get where gun owners are coming from in respects to, some of them are like, nah, see, we're not going to help you because you're going to go, you're going to turn around and turn this gun in and you're going to continue to vote for these laws. And I get it. I understand conceptually why they feel that way.
Yeah.
That's all they faced from a lot of these people. However, this is for people that are gun owners, this is a golden opportunity to embrace these people and bring them into the fold and bring people like me in, or KD, or there's a gentleman named Mike Sedini you guys should interview. He has an organization called Walk the Talk America that works to destigmatize mental health in the gun industry.
Yeah.
Right.
So, well, he used to own Eagle Imports. So he was so he was
nice.
he sold his he was an international firearms dealer, and he sold his company to to not get paid and work full time, working in mental health and to help destigmatize this and to help people understand that 76% of all firearm deaths are from suicide.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not the narrative that they tell you when they're talking to you about guns, right? They're not explaining that to you. They just throw out that number. Just like with domestic violence, they like to say a victim is 5 times more likely to die if there's a gun in the home, right? That's a very common language that they like to use. But what they don't tell you is, while yes, there's some truth to that. There's some truth that women are likely to die. It's not by firearm. Okay, so I'm going to break this because this is the quote that they'll give you. Victims. No, I think they actually do say women. In fact, it depends on if it's every town or Mom's Demand. Mom's Demand tends to use women more. Every town uses victims more. But they are 5 times more likely to die if there's a firearm in the home.
Right.
They're not saying that they're dying by firearm.
Big difference.
Like just
see
really
what I mean? Yeah.
The statistic.
So and that's how language manipulation works, right? That's how it's so effective.
Right.
And that's why that's why these people are able to pass these laws and use. They love to use women and children, and particularly domestic violence victims, as their pawns for gun control, and that's how they do it. And but when the reality is, a woman is far more likely to die from a firearm if she is not by a firearm. She's more likely to die from her abuser when she tries to get out of her abusive situation, particularly when he is released from jail. I know I personally was told by he's released because that's when he's his angriest and is most likely to retaliate. So I'm lucky that didn't happen. But nobody, no victim should ever feel lucky to be alive. That's not okay. That's to defend yourself is a fundamental, to have that is an inalienable right that you have from the moment you're born, to be able to defend your life. And it's not a constitutional right. It makes me nuts when I hear people say that. It is a right that we have that is guaranteed by the Constitution, because the men that wrote the Constitution were smart enough to know that they needed to have that in writing. So that, and I'll never forget them telling me to make sure that I wasn't home. Yeah, I remember that very distinctly. And I thought that's kind of crazy. You know,
so,
I mean, it was just.
I want to say something that's a little off, but I want to thank you for what you do in the way you do it, because, and I don't mean this as a shithead man who, you know, is focused on this or that, but because you're not your typical like gun bunny, like you say, you're not your typical. We're from Eastern Kentucky, and most of the women who pack guns around here are talking to Clyde in the F-350, you know, with the jacked up Ford on 36 Mickey Thompsons rolling around, you know, in the hood. But
you said Mickey Thompsons,
right? No shit. I know what I'm doing. I've had some Mickey Thompsons. So listen.
I love it.
So as I told you before we did this, I currently bought a Tiffany blue Glock, which I swore I would never do because it's Tiffany blue. But a Tiffany blue Glock will hurt just as bad as a black on black Glock. I swear.
That's true.
So to see a woman like you, who also. You are, as I've said several times, you're a very pretty female. You're very
Thank you.
made.
Thank
you know, you're put together. You carry yourself very confidently and very strong, and you stand up for what you believe in. And so, therefore, you're not your typical Eastern Kentucky, I don't know, gun bunny. You're somebody who really holds herself and carries herself a little different. So, I have a female in my life who carries herself the same way as I like to call her a girly girl. She's not a tomboy. She likes to doll up. She likes to be pretty. She likes to do this. But because of you, you know, I showed her your page, the We Are Female page, and she was like, well, I got to buy some nail polish. I got to buy one of these purses. Like, this is the shit. Now she, like, it's just all about you. And so I told her, I said,
oh, that's it. Well, you see, I created a month. Is that it? You're like, oh, great. We're there.
Right now, I got to, like, watch my back with you, because when
you know, it's so, yeah, I was in a beauty and fashion. And I won't let you show. I won't tell you what my day spa name is. You'd really be in trouble then.
No, she's done looked at it. She's done fucking, I promise you, she is next level CIA. And has done been like, well, I got to get a pedicure. She owns a spa. And I was like, shit, how do you know all this? I didn't tell you that. But she's already found all that out. So, so
it's not a secret. Yeah.
Most of the girls around here just aren't. And what I mean by that is most of the girls around here, you carry yourself in a different way. You carry yourself in a very feminist, but strong, independent way. Whereas most of the females that we kind of deal with, and no offense to them, are more of a tomboy kind of way, because we're in Eastern Kentucky. They hunt, they fish, they whatever it be, and you carry yourself in a very, you wear dresses, you present yourself in a very feminine way, but yet you are not willing to compromise your safety or your rights for that look or that reason.
You're trying to say you have girl balls.
You do. You have girl balls. And
they're actually. Do you guys watch The Walking Dead?
I did
for a while.
That shit's been on. That shit's been on for like 12 years. Like, who's left?
Yeah, they're actually called beach. According to Negan. According to Negan, they're called beach ball sized lady nuts.
Lady nuts. Lady nuts. I like the word lady nuts.
Yeah.
Is Negan still alive?
Beach ball sized lady nuts is what he referred to it.
When the kid died.
So my husband often says that to me.
What's the kid's name?
Which one?
Carl. When Carl died, it was fucking over. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Me and my wife quit watching it.
When Carl died, it was done. That was a good show.
So interesting. On that note, on that note, it's, you know, I'm told a lot. I get a lot of pushback in the gun world, the gun community, particularly from conservative women, because let's just be honest, the old guard conservatives still control the gun rights narrative. And I'm not poo-pooing that. It is what it is. And that's why what I've come to discover and ended up becoming an accidental advocate for as well is this. I'm a Gen Xer, right? Because I'll sit back and watch the millennials and the boomers just eat each other. I think it's great.
Right.
So,
Shit.
yeah. So I'm 45. So I sit and I watch this, and it's awesome. So there's this old guard, new guard, where a lot of the younger gun owners and people in this world, they communicate differently. You know, memes are a very powerful language for them. They're more liberty minded, more libertarian minded. You know, you're going to find people that are, you know, hardline 2A absolutionists that are pro-choice. You know, you're going to see a lot of this type of stuff. And so there's some struggles between those two things. And I get a lot of pushback from female conservatives in the world because they call me harsh and abrasive. I've had a lot of men say that to me too.
Insecure
they're
men.
the men are able to, they kind of tolerate a little bit more, but they're, you know, you're so harsh, you're so abrasive, I've said to a couple of these women, I said, but you voted for Trump. Well, that's different. Well, how's that different?
Right. Because you're a female.
Well, but no, they don't answer. And I said, so what you just did is you expose the double standard that I've been out preaching against in the gun community for the past year. Additionally, I'm a real feminist. I'm not a feminazi. And I understand that the feminazis are screwing up what feminism is about, and they're literally putting us behind. And that's why I'm still so active with helping to educate people and what the history about why feminism was a thing, why we needed it, but also the philosophy around it. And it's about creating, you know, equal opportunities, not trying to smash the like, ladies, love your men. It's okay. We need men in our lives, and that's okay. And stop trying to smash the like you're first of all, you're acting like an idiot. And you know, second, you're not helping the situation. So I literally look at these conservative women, I'm like, you tell me you're anti-feminist. I explain why. Theoretically, you understand it, but then you still tell me I'm harsh and abrasive. But when I say, but it was okay for you to vote for a guy that did it, and you don't have an answer. And now you're literally validating the reason why we still need feminism. We're not fighting for rights anymore, ladies. We have our rights, and all of this feminazi extremist shit it needs to stop, because we are no longer fighting for rights. Okay, we legally have every right that a man has. However, we are still discriminated against, and we are not given the same opportunities that men have. And that is why we still need feminism and why we still need to fight. That being said, y'all feminazis wearing the vaginas on your head running down the road are literally creating the very thing that you say you're fighting against. You're trying to fight for equal opportunity. You're screwing us up. So if you could take the vaginas off your head, it'd be great, ladies. Thanks so much. So
I love
thank you for coming to my Terry Talk.
Because I do have some friends like that who are, there's a big difference in what you do is like,
so that's,
you know, this level, like you have your rights and you have this and you have that, but you are, like you said, you are discriminated against because you are female. But then they are we are female, hear me roar that will come out and fucking, no matter what I say, they're fucking, no.
Because I'm a woman?
Right. It's because I'm a woman. I'm like, no, it's because it's not. It's not at all. But
basically,
and
you're fighting for equality,
you know,
not supremacy.
And I went through that phase in my 30s, not to this extreme like we're seeing now, you know, but I had my moment where I had that chip on my shoulder, and I realized my femininity was my power. And being a woman, like, ladies, let me let y'all in on a secret. We're way more powerful than they are.
Yeah, I get that.
Because we have these.
Yeah, that works. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, my wife tries that all the time. I'm like, I'll do whatever you want me to do right now. Dishes,
I'm kind of laughing.
Whatever.
You know, we're laughing and teasing about it, but women hit themselves in the kneecap constantly. And there's you know, there's Sheryl Sandberg. She pulls off the feminazi extremist thing on but he says about And that happens a lot, and I see that a lot actually. And it goes back to that same, I'm harsh and abrasive, but a man is a leader, you know, and he does it or whatever. So that does still exist, and it you know, where things that I be criticized for if I'm self-employed, because I'm an HR nightmare. But if I were employed and had to do performance reviews, I know for a fact that there are things that I would be told that I'm too aggressive or I'm too harsh or abrasive for, that a man would be praised for. And that does still happen, unfortunately. But you standing out on the street throwing tampons in the air and yelling with a vagina on your head, like you're literally hurting the movement and you look like an idiot. So that kind of needs to stop. So that's a whole other rant that I go on.
That's it's a refreshing thing for you to say that, because it proves that you, again, just like you said before, where you would support the constitutional right of your abuser, that shows that you aren't in it for some self-proclaimed issue, that you're not looking to do something just for you, that you're actually looking for the rights of everybody. Yeah. So I think that says a whole lot there.
Yeah. And definitely not one of those type that like,
and that's, and there are things, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Have you seen that one protest they had that was like, it was a topless protest. They were like walking around topless and then screaming, "Don't look at my tits." Like, it just seems counterproductive. Like, you know, don't pull them out. I don't know. Maybe I'm drunk. Go on.
Well, you got a point. And, you know, my thing about the whole free the nipple movement, that's what that's called. And look, here's the thing. Honestly, if men can run around without shirts on, women should be able to. And women's breasts are more stigmatized sexually. I get that. That being said, most of y'all men, I don't want to see your movies. Y'all ain't got no shit that you want to be putting
I got more man tits than you ever thought about having.
I don't need to see that.
We wear shirts.
So
I mean,
I wear 2 shirts to cover up my man tits, so don't talk to me about
all about equality. That y'all men need to put some shit on too. I don't want to see that. And let women nurse. Like that's it's a thing, right? It's a natural human thing to do. So, you know, so it's just some you know, just those interesting little things. But one of the things in the domestic violence world, you know, advocacy world that I've come to realize that was that I underestimated. I knew that men were abused. Okay, I knew that this was a thing. Yeah. And I know that it's a very serious thing. That being said, I didn't. So October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Okay, and I didn't realize. So I posted a story of a gentleman who let me post a story about his domestic violence issue. Yeah. And my celebration of equity and equality, right? And celebrating that as a feminist, I need to let men be heard equally. And I opened a floodgate that I did not realize. The comment section, the DMs and the private messages just for days, just flooding in from men telling their stories and thank you so much. And I was crying at one point. I was like, good God, like these men just needed to be validated. And it just broke my heart. And you know, and I realized that this feminist voice can be a voice of equity for men to be able to come out about the abuse that they suffer as well. And that they need to do that, and they need to be able to have that lane as well. And that one was, I was, like I said, I didn't, I knew that it existed. I just didn't realize, and I guess conceptually I understood it, but emotionally I didn't have any empathy toward the fact that they couldn't come forward for all of this, the reasons that those stigmas exist, right? One gentleman apparently was taking Ambien for insomnia, and his wife was raping him while he was on Ambien. And he was embarrassed, and he tried to talk to his family and some friends about it, and his own family ridiculed him. You know, they were saying things like, well, what, you don't want to have sex with your wife, right? Because that's a dude's thing, right? Dudes are always supposed to have sex. And so he was actually suicidal at one point because he felt so alone. And he was very public. Like he shared that group comment. You know, he says, thank you for finally, you know, letting this be heard. And I was like, oh my God, I mean, if I'd known, you know, I would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, and that's,
like-
I mean, yeah. And like I said, most of the time with women, it tends to be more emotional, and stuff. But women can knuckle up. You know what I mean? Women, especially if they
right,
get,
yeah.
Listen,
women can
speaking
be
of knuckling
crazy.
up, I've been punched more in the last 4 months by women in my entire life. About 21 times in my left jaw, I've been punched by a woman. Not saying I didn't deserve it. I'm not saying I didn't deserve it. So,
But you didn't. And we lost our guys. Oh, here they're back.
No, I'm
There's
sorry, I
never-
had a phone call. My bad.
Yeah, they're linked.
That's all good. There's
Do
never
what
a
now?
reason to hit people, right? I mean, that
I believe the same thing. I tuck it, and I will never ever. And I'm not one of those guys that say, she can hit me once, but she hits me 2 or 3 times, and she deserved it. And maybe it's an old-fashioned thing, and I don't try to say that women aren't equal to men or you can't handle yourself. But I was always taught growing up, I'm a fucking gentleman, and that's the way I was taught to be.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it towards anything bad, but I will still open the door for my girlfriend. I will still carry every fucking bag I can. I will pay for everything I can.
So I'm going to stop you a minute because I want you to have a little self-realization moment. We're going to have a little Dr. Carey therapy session.
Let's do it.
You went on to validate all of the reasons why you don't support abuse in any way, but you literally said, yeah, when they hit me, it's not like I didn't deserve it. Because that's what you're programmed to do as men, right?
Okay. Yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I give you that. I don't even know what to say because in my mind, what happened to make me get punched, I was like, I probably deserved that. So I provoked it. Right. I kind of took it and I was like, I deserved that.
Right. And maybe you did, but that you saying that excuses her behavior for the violent act.
If it was
and
vice versa,
and that's not okay either.
Because if it was vice versa, I would say no matter what she did, she didn't deserve you to hit her.
Exactly.
But as a guy, I'm like, I could take it. And it's because I could take it. Because when she hit me, I can take it because I'm a 250-pound man and I can take it. And so I feel like
you shouldn't have to take it.
Right. I agree. I didn't want to take it. Shit. I didn't want to get punched in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And women can, and like now that I'm in the gun world, I know some woman that will whoop some asses on some men.
Yeah. I've met some women that will knock the shit out of a man in a second.
It don't matter how big Bubba is. She could walk up fight like I saw one of your guys.
Again, we're from Eastern Kentucky. So when 325-pound Stephanie hits you in the face with a right hook, you know that she hit you. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he says, a firearm is the equalizer for a 5 foot 90-pound woman. Yeah, well, lifelong training of Brazilian jiu-jitsu can be too. You know what I mean? So, like, I know some women that can flat take down some men twice their size.
I mean, I get it, but like I said,
yeah.
I get iffy sometimes because I still want to do those. So, how do you feel? Let me ask you that because if you walk out of a door and I hold a door for you, or I ask to carry your stuff, or I open your car door, or I want to pack your bags out, is that an insult to you that I do that?
I'm a pussy girl.
Okay, right. Because I've had plenty of women say, I can handle my own shit. Well, handle it then. Fuck.
I'm not a feminazi. I don't clean my own guns because I don't want to get
Well,
my
there you go.
Okay?
Right. I don't know. Matt cleans my guns. It's the same shit. I mean,
fuck, dude. I just want to make sure that turn into shit.
I actually had a gal try to.
If anything I was taught from my old man, it was to never hit a woman, to respect a woman. And as I've grown up, I've always held doors and carried bags and done the things that a man is supposed to do, in my mind, for a female. Not because I think you can't do it. You can carry 2 sacks of bread and some potatoes. I know you can.
It's chivalry. And
let me do it, though, because you shouldn't have to, because that's what I want to do for you. Well, but I've had those people who are like, I'm a female. Hear me roar and pack those potatoes up the steps, and okay, fine, I'll do your thing, man.
Yeah, and that's the chip on their shoulder, right? And I get that. I had a client who claimed that she was and she actually ended up being one of these feminazis. Like she actually went to the whole protest. I'm gonna go. This is what ended our friendship actually, because it was tense. Because I voted third party. I always vote third party because I don't support RNC or DNC at all. I don't even support the American Army because our Constitution was written to not have parties. And so when I say hardline constitutionalist, that's what I mean. Yes. So even even though I think that, Trump could cure cancer at this point and people would be pissed at him because he put doctors out of business. I also don't put that much energy into him, positive or negative, to let him live, because he's not the problem. Congress is the problem, right? And people forget that. And the media wants you to forget that. So it's just not a thing to me, but it's that she went to protest, that march in DC, and I said, what are you protesting? Well, I need to fight for my rights. What rights have you had taken away?
Right.
Well, it's going to happen. I said, lady, you have a master's degree. You're not a stupid woman. Not that you're intelligent if you have a master's degree, because I know some very stupid people. Clearly, this one, obviously, is going to find out. But obviously, right? You pride yourself in your education.
Right.
Do you not know how the Constitution works, right? Trump doesn't get elected. He appointed a judge. The judge goes in, pulls Roe versus Wade off the wall, and throws it in the fireplace and burns it. That's not how shit works.
No,
no,
not at all.
I said the chances of you losing, you're right, because that was her big thing. He's going to take away abortion. I'm like, no, he's not. Watch your states. That's where it's going to happen, and that's your 10th Amendment, not the federal government. Like, you're protesting the wrong things. And she got pissed at me, and that was it. But before this, she was making comments about how she, I don't mind chivalry and I love being a girly girl and all this. And I had shared a story about my daughter and calling out women sexually harassing men, like grabbing their butts or this or that. And my daughter is like, nah, that's like, lady, if you're pissed, nah, that's not cool. Don't be a hypocrite. Right. It's not, you can't do that. And then say it's not okay for a dude to do that. And this progressive woman says, well, they've done it to us long enough, so it's time that they get their turn.
The shit.
And I said, that's not a very strong or good attitude about equity and feminism and equality.
Right.
And she said, oh, it's all about feminism, and it's because we had to suffer long enough that it's time they suffer too. And I was like,
that don't solve shit.
No. That is not.
I mean, I get the mindset that it's like I suffered, now they have to suffer, but in the end, it doesn't solve shit to do that. I mean,
no, that's just saying that I am superior. That's not saying that we are equal.
That's that smash the patriarchy crap that has put us where we are, and where women are now lacking. They're not being offered opportunities and so on and so forth, because men are scared. Like my husband. So my husband's active duty. He although I don't tell people a lot about what he does, but I'll say he's a senior level.
No, we kind of lost.
In the beginning, when we got married 13, 14 years ago, he was stationed in Bahrain, and I don't remember how the conversation came around, but anyway, he had to go meet some gal for something, another officer, and he wouldn't go until there was somebody else there. And I said, well, that's bullshit. He says, I'm not going to go sit with a woman and be accused of. Now this was 13 years ago. Okay.
Oh wow. Yeah.
This was long before any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, how dare you? I mean, this caused a fight between us. I said, what is that? Like, why would you do that to women? That's bullshit. Like, my feminist panties were on fire, man. I was mad. And I was like, that's not okay. And that is not, and it wasn't because I needed antibiotics. It was like, I was mad. This isn't okay. I said, how dare you accuse, like, why would you dare say that shit, right? And I was pissed. So fast forward, if you like this, so it goes to, we put the conversation to bed, move on. I don't think anything more of it. Fast forward to Kavanaugh and all this shit. And right around the Kavanaugh time, I don't know. Well, let me back up. It wasn't even Kavanaugh. It was Pence, right? And Pence made the comment that he wouldn't have lunch with a woman, and it, and all this kind of stuff. And it brought it back up. Oh, between my husband and I, and I was like, really? All right, this isn't like, whatever. They wouldn't. So then the Kavanaugh thing happens, and all those reporters, everybody lost their minds. And then I think it was a mayor or the governor of Louisiana or Mississippi, one of those down there. There was a journalist that wanted to interview him, and he said, "Not alone." He says, "You bring somebody else," and she lost her mind. And because all this, I was like, "Ding!" I'm like, "Oh shit, I wouldn't either." When you have this culture, my husband was like,
Right.
I was like, okay,
You
I
remember
get it. I get it.
that?
He's all, with one accusation, a woman could end my career like that.
So coming from a guy who works on an ambulance, I'm very iffy always to transport patients that are female in
I
the
get
back
it.
of my truck who are
I get it.
underage. I've been responding to softball fields, basketball games, whatever, and you take a 15, 16-year-old female, and I'm 35, in the back of your truck. I promise you, whatever she says, that's what happened. And so it's
Yeah.
a very kind of like, it's an iffy thing
Yeah.
because my job, first of all, is to cause no harm and to provide good care to that patient. But then if something seems out of whack to her, even if it wasn't out of whack, you've got to answer to that. So I'm very iffy to always say, "Where's mom and dad? Bring mom and dad with us. Let's all go."
Especially
Yeah.
as a in a ambulance, right? A medical situation where it could be something where you have to take her clothes off of her.
Right, you got to cut like a shirt off or some pants off. You don't want to do that, just you. And so it's a very scary situation. And I've told several people that hey, I want mom and dad with me, or I want grandma. I want somebody to say, hey, this didn't happen. And I guess I say that idiotically because I don't mean that every female will try to say I did something.
No, I get it. I get it.
Right. And I just want to, I guess, cover my base that, hey, what I did was necessary. What I did was for this. I didn't do that, or I did do this. So,
no, I get it.
It's an iffy thing, man.
And you know what's funny is I conceptualized and I could understand that for teachers, right? For male teachers, like in junior high or whatever, like but it always made sense to me because I knew how girls were, but for whatever reason, I couldn't like process that with my husband or, you know, in any of these other contexts. And now I get it. And now, you know, it's we believe all women unless it's Joe Biden. Right.
Yeah,
unless
that's
it's
double
Epstein
standard.
or Weinstein or any of these guys, right? So yeah, I really struggle with that whole and that. Listen, look, anybody watching this now, watching it in the future, in the event that you have any opportunity for me to be in front of Alyssa Milano, I beg you to do it, because there is nothing that I want more than to get in that woman's mug and tell her what is up. That this woman sat behind Kavanaugh and put his wife through hell over an accusation of shit that she couldn't remember. But Tara Reid, this broad that just came out, right? And everybody's like, well, it's old. Guess what? That the media is burying. My husband found it. She filed a complaint. She filed a police report and it got buried.
Right.
That's when her mother went on the Larry King show and asked what to do because the police report got buried. So don't tell me that you support, that you believe all women when like you crushed the Me Too movement. And here's what's sad. So as somebody who's a domestic violence survivor that the system failed, and I don't talk about it a lot, and maybe because that part of it is still sensitive for me. It's also, you hear about it more. I feel it's got its voice, but I was sexually assaulted as well with that whole thing, and had other incidences of this. More women have probably been sexually assaulted than they realize, because of what they thought that like you, right? Like more men have probably been abused than they realize because you deserved it.
Right.
So same thing with sexual assault. Well, I was out and I was drinking and I shouldn't have been dressed like, whatever. But, so I know why a lot of women don't report. They don't, as an abuse victim, they don't report because the system's going to fail them. The dude might get arrested, but as soon as he gets out, she's going to get in more trouble.
Right.
I get it. But for me, they dropped his charges from a felony to a misdemeanor. He negotiated a diversion agreement, and then he took a part-time job delivering pizzas so that he could his delivery territory was where my condo was. So he knew where I was all the time and sat right outside of that perimeter of that no contact order. And he had the excuse to be in the area because of this job. So I get this. I put myself and my daughter through emotional hell because I did what I knew was the right thing. But what was the point? Like nothing, right? It was nothing. So I get why women don't report. I get it. And what's sad is the woman that started that Me Too movement, it was actually a Black woman. I cannot remember her name right now, but it was a Black woman that started it. And then Alyssa Milano and all these, and Rose McGowan. Rose McGowan actually supported this one. Like Rose McGowan picked that up, and then she's the one that opened it up in Hollywood, right? And everybody crushed her. So I admire, even though I don't share the same political views as Rose McGowan, I admire her for being willing to let her career, like she just didn't care, and to be that person. I admire that. That being said, that's why the Me Too movement was needed and valid. But Alyssa Milano, that bitch, and that Blasey Ford thing, they ruined it, and now you're just seeing it perpetuated. And fortunately, and unfortunately, because that movement is still needed, and we don't have the space for women to come out because of these extremists. They're not going to. But at the same time, it's also good that movement's been ruined, and that nobody takes it seriously anymore because of how it was hijacked. If that makes any sense.
Right.
It made sense in my head.
Right.
When I was saying it.
I'm gonna piss real quick, dude. Or I'm gonna piss all over your butt.
We're working on. We got about 20 minutes, and we'll be at about 2 hours.
Right.
We've had off and on the viewers. I can't pull it up, but if you go to your little eyeball up in the corner,
right,
you can. It'll tell you who's in the room. So if you want to play a magic mirror romper room and say hi.
Oh, look at that. I got you.
And for those of you that are watching this, please ask questions. You can ask me questions. You can ask the guys questions.
No joke. So I push this a lot towards females because you are a strong female. So, and so I pushed more for that because a lot of the guys, especially where we're from, are doing guy shit and on this guy mentality that they don't want to hear guys and they don't want to hear this. But the response from you, look, so I don't know if you can see the comments on Facebook right now.
So I can see some, but I can't see them all.
Matt's wife just said, little known fact, Matt has a huge crush on Alyssa Milano.
Well,
it's funny that that's the third person to tell me that.
She was a beautiful girl. She was a beautiful girl, had a really promising future, and I don't know what the hell, man. She went off the rail. I don't know what happened.
I know we said like an hour, 2 hours. So I want to get real quick. Before Matt comes back, I want to let everybody know what we're trying to get in when you come down is we talked a little bit about it. You're going to come down the end of May. Look at her showing her guns off. And they're pretty too, man. They're so, look at that. Don't make me take, I will take the shirt off and only 1% of the women in this building want to see what's underneath it.
So all of my guns that have names, I haven't named them all yet, but this is the one in that video I just did with the changing of the clothes thing.
Right.
I name all of my firearms after badass women in American history. So this is my AR. This is a POF, Patriot Ordnance.
Right.
Factory, and this is called the Wonder, and this one was designed. Can you see her?
The top one there, I can see. No, we can't see that one. Bring it down. Oh yeah, you're missing guns.
So she was designed by. So Frank owns POF. He's an amazing human being, and that dude is patriot as fuck. Like if the book goes down, you want Frank around. So, but his wife designed this AR. So the grips are a little bit smaller. The trigger sits a little bit further back.
I see that.
All the it's all super light. This is amazing to shoot. And even men, so I took this out to IV-88 range day, and the men had a blast shooting it. She's really fun to shoot.
Yeah, that's sharp.
That pencil barrel?
So her name,
Is that a pencil barrel on that?
I don't know what that means. So
really thin?
No, it looks
yes, it is very thin.
Okay,
okay, cool. Yeah.
So
my turn.
All right.
Her name is Margaret Corbin, and Margaret Corbin was America's first female the first woman in American history to receive a military pension. She fought
Oh,
in
wow.
the Revolutionary. She fought in the Revolutionary War. She is the one that is most commonly known as Molly Pitcher. For people that, if you've ever heard of Molly Pitchers, Molly Pitchers were the women that brought men water on the battlefield during the war. But the very famous painting or sketch or drawing that you've seen of the woman packing the cannon with the soldiers behind her and the water pitcher on the ground, that was Margaret Corbin, and she watched her husband die in battle. And she dropped the pitcher and picked up his, I don't know what you call those things that pack the cannon with. And so she started packing the cannon. And so she fought, and then she took shrapnel to her shoulder, her jaw, and her chest. They lost, I can't remember what the name of the battle was that they were in. It wasn't Concord. It wasn't Lexington. If my husband's watching right now, he would know. But they lost that battle. So then she was taken prisoner of war. So she was a frontline fighter. She was an injured soldier. She was a POW, and she's the first woman in American history to receive a military pension. So that rifle was named after her.
Excellent.
So my little Banshee here is, this is the CMMG Banshee. I love this gun.
Yes, those are.
I might
excellent.
bring her with me when I come out there.
Yes.
So
is that the 9mm?
I love
Yeah.
her. I love Battle of Monmouth. Told you my husband was watching, and so he knows it. Battle of Monmouth is where she was injured. So this little gal is named Sybil Luddington because she's little and fast. And Sybil Luddington was the female Paul Revere. She was 16 years old, and she rode to warn the Continental soldiers that the British were coming. So so I'm a big history nerd, and I'm a big American women's history nerd, and that's what I use. I'm always asked in interviews about my feminist views, and I educate about what real feminism is, and I use badass women in American history to teach what it is, because women were doing feminist shit before feminism was a thing. And Abigail Adams is my everyday Carrie, and she's a little P238. I don't have her in here. She's a little P238 because she was America's first feminist, and she's pretty badass. So she goes with me everywhere, and so, and then this one doesn't have a name yet. I've actually not even had a chance to shoot this one yet. This is the Springfield the Saint.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
This is my shotgun. So this was my first. This is what my husband bought for me when my PTSD got so bad and he was deploying and I was alone. He bought a shotgun and we put it on a rail on the side of the bed, and just it didn't solve my insomnia, but it helped to ease my nightmares better than actual PTSD therapy, knowing that I could defend myself.
Absolutely.
So, and then this little gal here, the one that y'all were looking at. So my friend KD designed this pistol.
Oh wow, it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Great job.
So this was done on a VP9 SK platform. There's nothing about this other than the grip now that is even the backstrap that's even VP9. So I went to Idaho and watched this get built, watched the slide get built so that I could learn about it. J&L Machine Works, that dude he's a beast, man. He does amazing stuff. So her name is Harriet because my case, let's see if my case is under here. I'll grab it. All of the cases are laser cut by Carolina Custom Foams to tell stories, and this one tells the story of the Underground Railroad. So he goes around the country and teaches about the history of gun control and how gun control laws in America started. They started to keep the guns out of the hand of freed slaves. Because white people were scared and didn't want them armed. So he goes around. He does a couple of things, but that's one of the things that he does. Is that he goes and he trains with that, but I don't usually show my serial numbers on my guns, but they're number one. So there's only 49 of these made, and this is number one right here. I bought the first one. So but I named her Harriet after Harriet Tubman, since that was who he was honoring with that. So what is this? Oh, that's so my husband he changes my wall every so often, so I don't know. Like this one, I haven't named her yet either. This is my FN.
Yeah,
So,
I like that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm learning about this. You know, it's a journey for me, and I'm having a blast doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
They are
enjoying
fun.
learning guns and stuff, but I still let him clean them. So and load my mags. That's
Yeah.
kind of the joke, is that he can just load my mags and tell me I'm pretty.
I mean, that's all right. I mean, that's what
I'm
Matt
okay
does
with
to
that.
me. He takes my gun off safety. He loads my mags and tells me how pretty
Yeah,
I am, and
I'm
I
good.
fucking eat it up.
My friend Elizabeth Smith here, who's watching this live stream, she said, "I loved Alyssa Milano on Charmed."
Hey,
So
I did too at that time. But
I
that was
never
before
watched
I
that show,
learned
but
about
I'm
it.
old, so I watched her as a kid on Who's the Boss, because that's how old I am. There's my age. test
Oh
for you.
yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
the boss? Shit.
Yeah.
I remember that show.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, as we're going on, and I'll wrap up, I'll tell everybody what we're doing when I'm
Yes,
there.
do
But
that.
look, there's still people watching. Please ask questions. I mean, you know, I know that there's about 15, 16 people here, or at least I can see, who knows, you know, because people pop in and out. But
Right, yeah, people
please-
keep coming and going.
Yeah.
Well, and that's just who I can see in this group, right? So these other groups, who knows? But please ask questions. If you guys have some questions, I'm here to answer them for you. If you have questions about domestic violence, if you have questions about me,
Like, I wanted for sure,
I
I
don't know.
wanted for sure for you and Matt to take the lead on this episode, because I've been very vocal that I'm here to. I drink, I tell stories, I have some shenanigans. When it comes to gun laws and all this shit, this is the guy you talk to.
Yeah.
And so I wanted him. I told him when he did this, I said, "You're going to take the lead on this. I'm going to get drunk," and that's what I've done.
That didn't happen at all.
Well, I mean, I talk a whole fucking lot.
Well, and that first hour was rough trying to get the thing set up, so that didn't help any.
Yeah, this was our very first time that we've live streamed anything.
Yeah, we
and
usually do audio, like we'll
like a
record.
typical podcast.
Yeah,
it's
I'll
just
go in,
audio.
I'll fix it.
Yeah,
perfect,
yeah.
And then I'll release it. Never done anything live.
You know
for
what?
the
But we
world to
definitely
see.
wanted to do that,
I've been-
especially with you, because I've talked some
I've
shit
been
about you coming
interviewed
on.
by. Well, you know, and I've been interviewed by lots of people. I've been blessed to, you know, be heard by the right people to help that believe in what I do and my mission. And, you know, even those with the most fanciest, it happens, right? I mean, it's
Technology is a beast. So
it's Wi-Fi, you know, all this shit. So it is what it is. And, you know, you know, we can always do it again too before, if you want, before I come down there. So I'm coming in, we'll book the tickets this evening, and it's, I'm looking at, I'll either be in on the 26th or 27th.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be there for 3 full days. And what's the city I'm getting? Monmouth? Like, I'll be near,
Moorhead.
Moorhead.
Which is 45 minutes east of Lexington.
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to do a concealed carry class. I'll be teaching the classroom component of that. I'll probably have U.S. Law Shield come in and teach your laws, because they all come in and do that for free. And teach the whatever your Kentucky laws are, so that I don't have to learn all that before I come in. And then I'll teach the all the other stuff around it, and then we're going out. I think maybe probably the next day, and we're doing. We've got somebody that'll be teaching. Carrie, because y'all have to have on the range time to.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've got my
Some
buddy
states
Jay
do,
Foe
and some
coming.
states
Yeah, I'm gonna say we can punt off on Jay.
My buddy Jay Foe, who's coming, who is a certified instructor as well as a paramedic, has agreed to come down. He's a fan of yours. He wants to come down and meet you. He wants to come down and hang out. And anything with Jay's your guy for us with guns. You get these two together, and I just walk off. I don't know what to say. I just fuck it. I'm done. But he's your guy, man. So he's agreed to come down and hang out. Like I said, I've contacted females that I personally know, and ladies who I personally know, who are dying to get either their concealed to carry or just get some general education on handguns, who may have wanted it and have either been intimidated by it or just never made that jump to do it. Who have now, because, and I do, man, I say this multiple times, and I don't mean to, but you aren't your typical, you say it yourself, your typical gun bunny. You still show yourself off as a female, but as a strong, independent female. And for those other ladies out there who still want to, you know, wear nail polish and carry the purses and wear dresses.
My nails, look at that.
Right. I told you,
Look at that, ladies.
you know, my girlfriend now, who that's the first thing she said was, "I gotta buy some nail polish because."
So
was what,
here's a fun story for you. So that video that we did, okay, first of all, completely out of my comfort zone. The video where the women in the montage where they do the change, the clothes.
yeah.
That's completely out of my comfort zone. I did
Right.
it. I was asked to do it. I just thought, what the hell am I doing? I know enough to figure that wink at the end would probably end up being the end clip. I was right. You know, because I do know that much, but I was very awkward and very uncomfortable doing that. I really didn't realize they were going to call us book girls. I wish she wouldn't have done that. Was a little cringy, but you know, whatever.
I didn't know what a book girl was till I watched that. I still don't know what a book girl is.
Well, that's the boogaloo, you know, it's the book boys, the book girls. Yeah, I was like, really?
The uprising.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not I cringed. I cringed. But that being said, the video ended up being adorable.
Right, it did?
Yeah.
The man who did it first, I did not, because I'm old and I'm not cool. He is the Marine rapper and who did this video first, where he was in his uniform and then changed out of his uniform and did this whole thing. And this became a challenge. And I didn't know any of this when she asked me to do this. I had never seen any of this at all. Well, he shared it today. So apparently he got a hold of it and shared it. Now, of course, come to find out, he and I have lots of mutual friends that are, you know, black gun owners. So that was kind of cool. So at some point, I'll probably be lucky enough to meet this guy. But yeah, that was a super awkward thing. But so where I'm going with that is, so I've got Sybil here, and I'm holding her, and in my husband, I almost killed him, but I didn't, because I was like losing my patience with it. I have a whole new respect for content creators, like a whole new fucking respect for them. So you know what looks cooler, right? Obviously, pulling that charging handle is what looks cool, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what looks cool. Ladies, I had to pop it from the side, which is what I do anyway when I'm running my gun. But I couldn't pull the charging handle and make it look cool because my nails were too long.
That's all right.
That's all right.
So I kept trying to pull it. Oh, the bloopers are great. Yeah, my husband's like, don't delete those, because I'm like, motherfucker. And I'm like, oh, and I hit my nail, and then I dropped the thing, and then the mag was backwards. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, so I popped it, which is what I do anyway. But you know, for a video, right? I mean, if I was able to rack up that clip, it just looks cooler, right? Nah,
Right.
wasn't happening. I wasn't gonna shorten my nails.
Not just for video.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did a while back. When I first started in this world, I realized that everything that's out there is still done by people who have been in the gun industry for a long time. And so there's a disconnect with being able to communicate with people, particularly women, that are not in the gun industry, right? That's my lane, right? I am the lady that owns the day spa that wants to get that lady that's across from me to strap up when she's going to the play date in the park with her friends, right? That's the soccer mom. And so I had this idea with this instructor that I was working with at the time. And we went out in the desert in Arizona, and we just let me go. And I didn't know the language. I still don't know all of it, right? I'm learning a lot of this. And so I did videos that were kind of like reviews, but literally as I'm going along and learning these things, you know. And I didn't know beaver tail, dovetail. I didn't know any of these words when I first started. And the videos are literally things like, oh, girls, and my nails were a lot longer then too. I said, you might not like this one because if you have longer nails, you're not going to like this trigger or the way this guard hits, or the way you're able to drop the mag. And everybody I've mentioned this to that's in the gun world are like, that's genius, because that's the way that's what they're thinking when they go in to buy a gun for the first time. That's what they're thinking, right? Who are we in here? One of these wives is in here, right? Wives or girlfriends or whatever. That's the shit that you're thinking when you go in. You're not thinking, well, I can't rack that slide back, or, you know, that's not, if you've never held a gun, you never shot one, you don't know that stuff. But the comments were, and I have fixed, like, it didn't bother me. Like, oh, I got called some nasty stuff. And like I said, the C word's my favorite word. And these people went past that. I was like, damn. And it bugged me, but it didn't bug me I wasn't offended by it. It was more frustrating. I'm like, you guys don't get, I'm trying to get a point across. And you're literally not getting it. Even though I realized obviously I needed to put a disclaimer in front of every video when I did that. We didn't think about that. Oh, you're flagging your camera guy, and maybe you should learn how to run a gun before you start telling people what kind of reviews are. And I'm like,
oh shit,
you're not getting it. And I'm out in the desert in a very controlled situation with a tripod and a camera and an instructor, making those mistakes because that was the point.
Exactly,
and so people that are in the industry, like your buddy that was watching this, he probably like, that's brilliant.
Right.
But I ended up hiding even one, because I had one that had like 2,500 views, which for somebody with less than 100, I'm going to be better about my YouTube, you guys, I promise. But I don't have a lot of subscribers because it intimidates me. That's a lot of views. And it's because people were so mean on it. So one of them I made the mistake of deleting because I lit off on Sky for making their guns looking like toys. And I'm like, I get it's cool and it's fun and all that kind of stuff. And I get that that's why you're doing it to appeal. I said, but if we're supposed to if we want to start taking personal responsibility in the gun industry, to not give them reasons to regulate us, maybe thinking about making this look like literally like those the thunder, whatever I don't even know what they're called, the little blue and white ones. Like they look like something to buy in the toy section. I'm like, we might want to be like, that's not cool, y'all. As a new mother, that would be, or not a new mother, but a mother new to guns, I would walk and be pissed if I saw that, because it would look like something my kids would want to pick up.
Some toy.
And, oh my God. It was like
internet gangsters that get you.
Oh God, the internet, the armchair warrior, all that crap came out. And I get that now, but in theory it was great. I liked the idea. Everybody I've ever talked to in the industry, they're like, yeah, that was a cool idea. But they're there. I just hid them until I can maybe make disclaimers for them and put them back to something. Because I don't want people, for me, whatever, I'm used to taking, you got to have thick skin in this world, in the social media world.
Especially because everybody back here you don't have to be, you can say your comment and be faceless and don't have to account for anything.
Yeah,
you can talk shit from behind the computer and never know who you are.
Keyboard warriors.
and they people can be pretty shitty. So whatever. I mean, that is what it is, and I'm used to that. So, but for me, understanding that there are people that are watching that may be new, and that's going to intimidate them. I was like, I can't have that. So I hid them for now, and I may do something with them later. But it's unfortunate because that's the kind of stuff like you just talked about, right? Oh, their nails or this or that. That's the stuff like you're saying that, right? You get that. You're like, oh, all these girls, they're not shooting gun. They wear nails, and you mean you can carry a gun and wear stiletto heels?
Right.
Yeah, you can.
Because where we're from, there's always been this split between girls who were what was considered girls and wore dresses, heels, nails, nice pretty hair, makeup, whatever, and girls who carry guns. There was never this mix. There couldn't be. Like growing up, I don't think I realized there could be because I was always taught there wasn't. There was girls who did this and there was girls who did this.
Right.
And you show that there are girls who can do both. And so for the females out there who want to still be that dolled up, pretty female, you can still protect your stuff. You can still carry a firearm.
Yeah.
And like I've said, people that I know in my life now want to carry a gun and have looked into like, well, I didn't know there was a such thing as a concealed to carry purse or a purse that I can conceal my firearm or I can put my Tiffany blue Glock, in, and I can still wear a dress and look good in it. And so those things
I would
are
love to see that, Mitch.
Well, I'll show you when you
wear a dress and put on a thigh holster?
He's checking his watch again.
Fuck yes, I'll wear a dress and put a Tiffany blue Glock on.
This is gonna
You've
happen.
not known me long
we're
enough
gonna
to not know.
We're gonna put him in a thigh holster and a dress. This is gonna happen.
He will do that. He actually will do that.
I will do the shit out of it.
No, I'm good.
I will shoot better than fucking anybody on that fucking range in that dress.
You forget, I'm a drag queen. Or I'm a makeup artist. I used to work with drag queens. We'll shave that beard off and make you look like we'll tape up boobs and
I don't
we'll
need to
tuck you up and we'll send you down the street, man. I'm good.
Fucking do it. I'm ready. I'll make $1. $20 is $20 in my neighborhood.
I like it. Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, that's what my husband likes to say. That he says, "I'm easy. I'm not cheap, and I'll do something strange for some change."
$20 is $20 where I'm from, and it all works. So listen,
Especially right now, man. People can't get unemployment. The government's mad.
shit. Gas is $1.15 a gallon. That's a whole tank of gas. $20. I'll do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go find a dress, have your woman help you find a dress. We'll get you.
I mean, it's gonna be. I don't know what we can fit me in, but I mean, there's a section for me.
There is.
You got to flatter these eyes.
Don't get anything fancy. We'll get you a wig, but I will get a hold of Can holsters and see if we can get them to donate a thigh holster.
Do I need to know my thigh circumference? Because that's a big thigh.
At some point, we're gonna need it.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's a big thigh.
Let me see if I can
get
it. Let me see if I can get it for free first. If not, then I'll buy it. I mean, that's not a big deal, but and then we could donate it to somebody who.
I tell you what, if you buy me a thigh holster, I will put a fucking dress on. I will prance around all day at the range in a dress and a
what
thigh
do y'all
holster.
think?
I'm not ashamed.
You guys think that this should happen?
I mean, I'm not scared at all. Like,
yeah.
I'm fine with this.
Yeah,
that will be the new cover of the podcast. Will be me in a thigh holster and a dress.
Me just like pointing at you.
Right. I got that don't scare me a bit. So we've been on this 2 hours, and I know it's getting late. So real quick, let me go over what we're gonna do. 27th, right? You're flying out. Is that what we talked about?
28th, that Tuesday or Wednesday, and then I'm gonna be there. She says that Kelly Dixon Crawford says, "Let your gobblers
hang." I don't even know what that means. I'll let it hang. I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna let them out there.
Think something about
I love it.
Oh, your sister just said she'll be there to witness.
She probably would. Yeah.
Does this mean that we have to? Should I? I own a day spa. Should we wax him, ladies?
I don't know. So we talked about that. I don't know that you should. No.
Medical tape, dude. We got that.
I'll trim it up, but I can't wax. I thought that's just. I'm gonna need more of this. Hold on. I'll whatever you guys think. If that brings more people to the conversation, we'll wax the shit out of it.
1,000 YouTube subscribers will wax his ass on the air.
I'm gonna teach Matt how to do it. Matt's gonna wax you. I ain't doing it.
I'm not letting Matt wax shit, but
I'll wax
it. So you're flying 27th. We're gonna stop talking about waxing my taint.
Nobody mentioned your taint.
Well, that's what I feel like it's gonna be. What are we gonna wax? So we
got a
studio day.
Let me just tell you, with women, I stopped doing men's a while back because they're just a lot of work. Like women are easy, right? It's like this.
Right, and you're done.
Right? Men, it's like you're shifting gears and you gotta like downshift and upshift. It's just
It's funny. I took a cruise. I went on a cruise 2 years ago.
It was not. The time I put in wasn't worth the money I made to do it, so I was like, I'm out. But so
I went on a cruise 2 years ago, and I got a facial, like a legit like hot towel facial, not like a facial.
Yeah.
And she said, "Have you ever been waxed?"
Not like Pornhub facial.
Right, not like
a
$2.99 a minute facial. Like it was like a hot towel, my nose stuck out, she rubbed my forehead. But whatever we got to do to make $1. I love this podcast. If it takes a $2.99 facial, then it does whatever it takes. So on said cruise, she said, "Have you ever been waxed?" And I was like, "No, I don't feel like you can wax this." And she's like, "I don't mean that. I mean that." And I was like, "No, like that seems like I don't know. I just don't think that's a thing. I mean, it just seems like it would hurt. It's a thing. I know. She told me. She explained the whole procedure to me.
Yeah.
And I said, first of all, that's a lot of wax, and that's a lot of pulling in different directions to get what you want. So I couldn't do it. I mean, I'm sure the outcome would have been, I don't know, fabulous. I don't know. I like it. Fabulous.
This is the best
bald.
part, right? We're talking to the boys from Kentucky, right? Like,
right.
And we get talking about him dressing up in a dress and getting his business waxed, and all of a sudden he starts using words like, "I feel fabulous."
Listen, I'm going turkey hunting in the morning. I'll be in the woods at 5:30 turkey hunting, and I feel like if I was walking. if I was
He's
walking
redeeming
through
his
the woods,
masculinity now. That's what that's about.
nope. If I was walking through the woods and I was clean shaven, I would feel like a new man. I'm not ashamed. I don't give a shit.
Feel a breezy.
Right. I mean, I feel like I wouldn't chafe. There'd be no chub rub. I'd be excellent.
Your
More aerodynamic.
listeners and like on the Kentucky United page, that poor Mark over on Kentucky United is probably going, good God, what the hell did I
I'm going to tell you this, though. If we went from 9 watchers to 18 when I talked about shaving my nuts. So, whatever works. I mean, if that's what happens, that's what happens. I mean, if it brings the viewers.
Yeah, it's a thing, right? It works.
So but yes, so you're coming down.
The 26th or the 27th.
Right. We've got
And-
studio time for a live with you coming in the studio for a podcast on that
Yes.
Friday, I think.
Yeah,
Thursday,
so whatever
Friday.
day, and whatever
Right.
day I'm going to do that will probably be the day that I'm thinking, if we can get in, is going to be the best day to also speak at the domestic violence shelter there.
Right. So we're still
Um,
right. So we're the podcast trying to get you into the domestic violence shelter, and then we're going to do the next day will be a range day.
Be out on the
and then
range.
we're
So I'll be there. Well, we might do the range before because I'll be there Wednesday,
Okay.
depending on if I fly in on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll have
Right.
3 full days there.
Okay.
So it'll either be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll have that short up tonight.
Right.
But definitely, obviously, I'll be there Thursday, Friday, regardless.
Right.
And then,
so we got we're going to shoot.
And then we'll get the concealed carry class scheduled.
Right.
And for those ladies, I'm saying that the range day, we might as well just make the range day where we're going to shoot some content for those that are getting their concealed carry.
Yep.
Let them go out with your guy, and they could do
Right.
that while we're doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
And that
I agree.
would-
That's good.
So for those ladies out there that particularly if you have any history of domestic violence, but more importantly, if you're single and living alone and you've just purchased your first gun or you're getting ready to, my organization, We the Female, is partnered with U.S. Law Shield. And U.S. Law Shield provides legal protection for you as it's self-defense legal protection. So whether you use your firearm, a knife, your hands, a baseball bat, whatever, to defend yourself, they represent you. So they are your attorneys for any means of self-defense. But they also will defend you for red flag laws. And they're a 24-hour service. So like for me, I can call them up and say, hey, I'm going to Kentucky. What are the laws there? Right. So I know what to take. So I know what to take with me
Right.
For traveling from out of state. So
Yeah.
if you are because I've not been doing as much traveling, We the Female, we don't have a lot of money. I am a 501c3 or 50. I'm a nonprofit. I'm a federally.
There you go. Yeah.
recognized
Whatever it is.
nonprofit.
Yeah.
I
We
get
got
some
you.
of those numbers confused. There's 501c3 and then there's 503c. Anyway, something. But I am a federally recognized. You can look me up. We the Females are federally recognized nonprofit. I don't have a lot of funds, but I have had some gentlemen who have been supporters of mine from the beginning who donated money for me to be able to provide legal protection for your first year. Now that you're a new gun owner. So if you're in need or you know a woman who is in need, reach out to me and we have a little bit of money to get some of these women there. These things. I also will help with concealed carry permits if needed. So those are things that We the Female does in addition to going out and doing the teaching and things. This is my shameless thing that I'm really, really awkward with. And this is why we don't have a lot of money because I'm not good at promoting myself. You can go to wethefemale.net. There's a PayPal link. And if you donate $40 or more, I send you one of these cool shirts. And they're cut for women because I have big boobs and I know how hard I know. So women with big boobs, like high neck shirts don't work. So this is all women's cut. Looks good.
Listen, I'm going to need one.
And then
for
I
my
have
dress.
a men's shirt too. So, but instead of buying the shirt, you make a donation, $40 donation. But I've got like cool little things. Like this is my, so Stilettos and Shotguns was never meant to be a brand. That's where I went viral. It was my personal shit talking account. But this is my first patch. Isn't she great?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. So $15, and I send you one of these, and all of the money goes to We the Female. So, and then I'll bring some of these with me, and I have these for you guys. But then so these are a little yeah.
Nice.
So and then there's going to be wethefemale.net is the nonprofits page. Stilettos doesn't have a page yet, but you can follow me on Instagram. That's more fun, typically than Facebook. although I posted 2 other people's, because I post other people's stuff all the time, but 2 of them hit apparently and went viral. They're not my content, but I shared them. One of them, if you go onto my Stilettos and Shotguns Facebook page, is drummer, gun drummer, I think he goes by, and this is my response to getting the vaccine, and he's got guns and he's shooting them. Because of that one, and then another video on there. Today I woke up and my Stilettos and Shotgun page has reached a total reach of 1.1 million people.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, it was 390 something thousand interactions on that page. So that's huge. And for me, that is just, it's fun. That's where I do a lot of shit talking. I do a lot of talking about legal stuff there and other constitutional issues, particularly around everything going on with this COVID bullshit. And because I understand the Constitution, I'm big on constitutional rights. But that being said, any growth that page has, anything that comes of that, 100% of Stilettos and Shotguns supports We the Female and everything I do. I do not get paid to do it. I'm okay with that. I'm blessed to be in a position to where I don't have to, get a paycheck at this point, because I do own a spa that I do still collect, an income from. And I'm very grateful that I can do that. So everything that comes in, 100% of everything goes to fund me getting women help and support in our efforts to change the culture of victim mentality. And I just realized that the case that was propping up my laptop here is my Harriet Tubman case, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Nice.
So
like
there she
that.
is. And this is
Sweet.
this is one of
signing up.
Katie's quotes in here, but this is the Underground Railroad. And if
Right.
you look close, you got to look really close, but there's like slaves running away here.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
And then the posse chasing them over here. And then this is what makes people kind of uncomfortable, which is awesome. Is it's a Harriet Tubman quote, but then one of the collars that slaves wore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. So
That is. I like
that's the
that.
case. It's absolutely awesome. And I'm he presented it a year ago, so a year and a half ago at SHOT Show, and I was just so moved by it. Harriet Tubman is known obviously for her Underground Railroad and freeing slaves and including herself, but and including Katie never looked at it from a feminist perspective, and how it was about her taking charge in a lead position as a woman and not using not being a weaker gender, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
I've always admired her from that perspective, and he'd never thought about it that way. So when he was done presenting it and walked away, I said I need that gun. And he didn't even, I don't even think that because he had the prototypes for show. I don't think he even knew what the end production cost was going to be on this gun yet.
Oh wow.
And he's like, well, I need, deposit. And he said, just let me know if you want to do that. Well, I said, what's your email address? And I immediately, right then, less than 15 minutes after he presented, I emailed him the deposit. And so when this was cut, when I was in Idaho and I watched it cut, he surprised me with telling me I didn't know that it was the first one. So
Wow.
I got to, yeah. So that's when I learned that I was the first one, and they showed me. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So just a fun little side story.
So listen, when I
very
watched
cool.
your Instagram the other day with KD, I really I kept jabbing at him about St. Louis, and
He's an asshole.
he's just straight my kind of guy though. Like
Yeah,
I
no,
knew
he's
instantly-
amazing.
Yeah, I
I'm
knew
kidding.
it's like that's my kind of dude that we can argue
Yeah.
about shit and still go out and have a beer and a cigar afterwards and shoot some fucking guns and be okay. So when I was dead serious when I said we're gonna go out to St. Louis. So I've kind of I follow his pages and I want to get in contact with him and we want to go out there, man. So
Go train with him. Go
Yeah.
go train with him, because he is a firearms instructor and he's
Right.
fantastic. One of my favorite pictures.
Yeah.
He does this event called the Train and Learn event, and you're going to want to go next year. It got canceled this year because of all this mess.
Right.
It's supposed to be next weekend actually. I went last year. I was honored and blessed to he asked me to be a speaker at his first ever event. I spoke on how to become an advocate and speak for your rights. So when you're there, it's a 3-day event. the first night you're there, they do, it's all like classroom workshop stuff. And so I taught that. They brought in TJ that owns Tactical Shit, and he talked about branding.
Right.
Curtis Hallstrom, VSO Gun Channels, was one of the instructors. Right. So we're talking like, I didn't know who these people were at the time, right? This is how new I was in this world. And Corinne Mosier, she's a very dear friend of mine now. I met her there. If y'all don't know, Corinne Mosier, Shield Maiden. You're welcome, gentlemen and ladies, because ladies, you're going to have a crush on her too. She's that woman. She's that woman that you want to hate as a woman. You know, being a woman, you're like, but you can't, because she's genuinely as kind and as loving as she is badass. Like,
right.
She's just, I'm telling you, you're like, and she's beautiful. So Corinne Mosier, Shield Maiden, check out. So that I met her there. I got to meet some really cool people, and do that. So then the next day you go out and train and so you're actually running guns. And I got to train with, so Corinne was one of them, the instructors, and I got to train with Dustin Pluth, who is a competitive shooter for Springfield.
Right.
And I had never drawn from a holster at that point. And so I was very intimidated and very scared, because I was literally standing out there with frontline active duty military from Afghanistan and Iraq. I was there with world champion competitive shooters. And then there was me, and I was like this. And I never felt that way. Never. I was so overblown up thinking that because they had us, it's, you know, they're like, it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to do the basics. And so we were all running these drills and stuff. And so I had Ken Scott and Dustin Pluth. Ken Scott runs Provectus Group. And then we trained all day. And then they ran a simulation, a nighttime simulation, which was fucking cool. And then Ken Scott, one of his specialties is he was a cop. And so they brought in cars, and they talked about how, like, the ballistics of how when you're in a carjacking situation or a road rage situation and you're shot at, how you need to train around that based on how the bullets are going to hit you and how to use your car for defense. Like, I'm telling you, it was amazing. Then the third day, they had all of these manufacturers bring out guns, so you could just create content all day long.
Wow.
And this is all something that KD does once a year?
Last year was the first year. He was going to do it this year. It got canceled. He has rescheduled it for next year. Y'all, it's like $250 or $300 for the ticket for 3 days.
Yeah,
you're losing.
Excellent.
And the place he has us staying is gorgeous, and it's inexpensive, beautiful resort. Inexpensive because it's in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. DeSoto, Missouri is where they hold it. And it's but I got to shoot. So Corinne shoots. She's a competitive. She's not a Terran tactical bunny by any means, but she's Terran Tactical sponsors her competition shooting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So she brought the combat master out, and I got to shoot John Wick's gun.
Oh shit!
Sweet.
Nice.
That's on my YouTube.
Nice. I love it.
I
check that
out.
Now KD he is an ambassador for Proper, right? Is that what I've read?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Josh, I watched some of these videos, and once I watched you on the Instagram the other day, and I kind of went back and forth with him. I started checking him out, and so I've got this thing now. I told my girl, I said I'd got to go to St. Louis. I got to hang out with him. So
Katie's an amazing human. He's doing amazing things, and not just with guns themselves, but I mean, he's just cool people. He's just really he and I together. I'm not going to talk about it on this for many reasons. One of which being somebody would get offended if they see it, because when he and I are together and the cameras are off.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I got you.
Dude, you cutting your fingernails with the fucking knife?
We think we're hilarious, and we are our own entertainment together. Kelly Dixon just put in here: the Kentucky governor apologizes to Tupac Shakur. I read that article, and I lost it laughing.
That's a true story.
The poor guy wasn't getting his unemployment check because they thought it was a fake name. The dude's name, he goes by, so his middle name is Malik, and he goes by Malik. And because they thought he was getting punked. I was like, that's a dick move. I mean, I get it, right? I
understand.
like, check on that.
Yeah. Like it would be no different if somebody signed up as Elvis Presley. You think that's fake shit.
But why? Maybe they're,
Right.
I know a lot of people that name their kid, I know somebody who named their kid fucking Anakin. And their middle name?
No, don't.
Skywalker. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm out. I'm fucking done. I'm gonna
People
drink
do
this.
stupid shit.
All
I'm like,
of
do you
that.
realize these people have to live with these names later, right? Anyway,
Finish this
so
bottle.
yeah, I thought I saw that. I wanted to acknowledge that. I thought that was pretty funny. So she asked again, dates May 26th, 27th, whatever date that I get booked. And then I'll be there through that last Saturday or Sunday of May. So just plan for now, the last weekend of May. We'll get that booked and we'll start getting that advertised out there. But so I highly suggest, just because it's a concealed carry class doesn't mean you can't come. I teach defensive mindset and situational awareness basics.
Nice.
So
yeah, some of the ladies I've spoken to,
culture.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but some of the ladies I've talked to have their concealed to carry, but are still wanting to come just to kind of get some basic knowledge and some of your mindset. And I said that was okay, and I'm assuming it is.
I would highly encourage it, and I'm reluctant to promote it as a CCW for that reason.
Right.
Because I've had seasoned veteran law enforcement officers be in my class and, kind of get the posture and the swagger. They're like, oh, we know situational awareness. We know this. And there's one component of it in planning that I have yet, after teaching a few hundred people, that I've yet, even law enforcement officers, even former active duty, that didn't come up to me and say, I didn't think about that.
Right. You always learn something.
So there's some pieces in there that you're going to be, especially if you're moms, that you're really going to want to hear. But the whole piece of this, and bring somebody with you who isn't into guns, because that class has very little to do with guns until I bring in the gun laws.
Right. And I think that's what
becomes
I've bragged about being the best
class.
thing about it.
The whole class is about changing the culture, helping us get the knowledge and absorb the importance of understanding that we need to change. We live in a culture of victim mentality.
Right.
And we need to work within our communities to change our mindset to realize law enforcement does not have the legal obligation to protect you. The United States Supreme Court ruled on that, and I think it was 2005 or 2007.
Yeah.
We are our own first immediate responders, especially as moms.
Yes, ma'am.
And we need to make sure that we are taking that responsibility. And so that's what my class is really about. So, but it is friendly for people that are afraid of the G word. So it's not gun heavy at all.
Right.
So if you know someone that you feel could hear what I have to say, by all means bring them, and understand that they're not going to be pounded with the pew,
Right.
If at the end of the class they're like, maybe I would like to do this, then they can go and they can take the class with their buddy on the range, and now you'll have it. And, the knowledge itself is never
But they have that choice if they want to or not. So
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the class itself, I think you guys will be really blown away by how much you're going to learn.
I'm going to be there. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for having me on, guys. I've had
thanks. Listen, first of all,
with y'all. This has been fun.
So as half tipsy as I am, thanks for putting up with our shit, because I know that we demolished the first hour of this with like technical issues. So so we appreciate you sticking around with us and hanging out with us. And damn it, Blake, get your stuff straight. But we do. We appreciate you.
Tech people that are tech. Here's the thing, right? I don't. That's why I was like, I had to get very succinct with him. People that are tech heavy, they just think differently than we do. And so he, sometimes, and it's not, I'm not blaming him. It's just his how he thinks, right?
The thing about tech
so
people
he's thinking I may already know that. And I'm like, tell me like step by step.
Right. That's the thing about tech. It's like this guy, when he tells me gun stuff, to him, it's second nature. And I'm like,
right.
He looks at me and I got shit tore apart. And I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
But I'm very blessed to have two guys to help me do this podcast. And like I said, it started out as just my thing. And then I brought Matt along because he was my first guest, right?
Yeah.
So Matt was my first guest, my second guest, my third guest. And then I was like, fuck it, we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
And then Blake just, selfishly said, let me help you guys out. So But I do appreciate everything you've done. Matt followed you on Twitter and was totally into what you did, based on what we do here and the female, that we deal with and who want to get into
And
not
I'm
so
not
much
in Kentucky.
guns,
I'm
but
in
just
Washington.
right. And he was like, I was like, where's she from? And he was like, she was at the Kentucky rally. So I remember tweeting you that picture of me in some bibbed overalls.
Yeah.
That was tucked around her head. And I was like, we're gonna get her on. And you were like, I'm in Washington. And I was like, damn, that's not like
And I'm glad you did. And thank you so much for having me on. You guys want me back
we
on
appreciate
anytime.
the shit out of it. And I cannot wait to have you here. So we've
We'll
got some good
do a
stuff
live
lined up for
stream.
you.
Huh?
Go ahead. I said, we've got some good stuff lined up for you. I want to
Yeah.
make sure you have a good time when you're out here. You're going to get some good bourbon, some good barbecue. We're going to have a good time.
I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
No, we had a good time, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sticking out with us and hanging out with us. If we can do
My
anything, let
pleasure.
us know. And we'll be in contact with you real soon.
You got it. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you,
Have a good
guys.
night.
Thanks for everybody watching. See you guys.
See ya. Thank you.